What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? You already know what time it is. This is your boy, the historian in the birdcage. We got a special one for you. We have Mr. Doug Plank that's supposed to be joining us tonight. We'll definitely get into that. But before you do that, go ahead and hit that like and that subscribe button for us so we can go ahead and keep continuing to bring you the content that we've been bringing you from day one, as we always have. So sit back, relax, enjoy. We got you covered. Birdcage, it's official. Let's go.
Okay, y'all, this is it.
Welcome to the Birdcage on the Perch edition. My name is the historian Ryan Walker. If this is your first time coming in, and we're gonna have my guy K Dub in the building that's gonna be joining me in a second. But first, before I bring him into the building, the first thing I'd like to say is condolences to Lane Kiffin and his family. Um, Sorry for the loss of one of the greatest defensive minds in the game, Mr. Monty Kiffin. Coach Kiffin has passed away today, a little while ago. That happened. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go ahead and bring in K Dub. What's going on, man?
How you doing? How you doing, Birdcage? Listen, subscribers. Glad to be in the building tonight. I've missed a couple weeks, been on a hiatus, but glad to be in the building. Glad to see you, Mr. Historian, and glad to get into Falcons football and into the interview possibly here with Mr. Doug Plank on the Birdcage. But like other than that, it's good to be in the building. Good to be back in the saddle again, and let's go.
Yeah, right now Mr. Plank's having a little bit of technical difficulties right now, so we're pretty much gonna try to help him out with that and try to get him situated. But before then, man, it's a sad loss. As a rival, you couldn't stand the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but when you think about that legendary Tampa 2 defense, you have to look at Monty Kiffin and his innovation to the game of football and what he did with that talent that he had in Tampa. We definitely saw what they did on many of Sundays being Falcon fans because that defense was legendary. You have four Hall of Famers on that defense: Warren Sapp, John Lynch, um, you have Rondé Barber, and then you got Derek Brooks. You have four Hall of Famers on that defense. Period. And the way that they were violent and the way that they flew around, it was just it to me. I feel like this. They were one of the most they are talked about, but they're not celebrated like they should be. And that was because of Monty Kiffin's genius and understanding how to use people and get folks in different positions. So, that was one of the best defenses outside of the 2000 Ravens that we saw in our lifetime.
Yeah, very good defense. It was celebrated. I lived that era, so I did see it up close and personal. In that sense, R.I.P. to the great. to the late great Money Kiffin, and condolences to the family in that aspect. Man, like I said, but it's always on with the new. So it's all about evolving his defense into something that even better, and molding it into making it an even better defense than what he left it. So like I say, it's a sad time in the NFL world. My prayers and thoughts go out to the family and everything, and the people that the players that played for him, and in that aspect also.
Most definitely. And when you sit back and you look at everything that is going on in the NFL, and you look at how, and like I said, our guest is a former safety, and the theme today is defense. It's regardless of how we look at it, the theme today is defense. Talk about the offense all the time. I'm a defensive guy, you're a defensive guy. But again, the theme today is defense. And when you look at how legendary Doug Plant. I mean, you look at how legendary aggressive defenses are. You look at the defense that Doug Plank played in. He played under the legendary Buddy Ryan. Buddy Ryan took Jerry Glanville's defense because and Doug Plank actually attested to that because he said they saw that when they scrimmaged against the Falcons in the offseason. They took that the Grits Blitz defense pretty much was the blueprint of the 46 defense, where it was all about pressure. They were just bringing people in rows, and no one had an answer for it. And if you look at what we had in 1977, teams only averaged 10 to 14 points, which wasn't much. We just didn't have an offense to complement that defense, which is a tragic travesty because it was one of the best defenses of all time, and they still hold the record for the lowest point total in a season. And they did it in 14 games. And when you look at the Bears and you look at how Buddy Ryan went in and he transformed that defense, but before he was there, he ended up going to Minnesota first with those purple people eaters and going to multiple Super Bowls that they didn't win. But they had one of the most dominant defenses in the NFL. But unfortunately, on Super Sunday, that defense was nowhere to be found. But he got to Chicago with Doug Plank, and a lot of stuff changed. Mr. Plank is still having some technical difficulties right now, so please bear with us for a little bit. But man, if you look at it, you talk about fast, violent, aggressive, and everybody had not only the physicality, they also had the intelligence to be able to point things out and really see things from a different angle and a different perspective. So when you look at a lot of the aggressive defenses that have come afterwards, it's a blueprint. It's a huge blueprint. And looking at what the Dolphins are doing right now, they're really trying to play fast and they're trying to be violent with a 3-4 defense right now. What are your expectations for this defense right now? And how do you feel as if things are going to change or we're going to be able to improve on what was done last year, even though we're running a totally different concept and a different scheme?
Well, I just feel like this defense is going to be tailor made to the players that we have to make them successful, to maximize their best attributes. Uh, finding ways to be more clever and to inspire the defense to be better in every aspect, from the top, I mean, from the back end to the front end. And just like I say, playing, like I said, playing with a lot of speed, a lot of violence, like I said, but also maximize their attributes. Like I said, it's gonna be some position changes, I believe, for certain players, and then we're gonna utilize them differently than they were used. And not saying that I did like the defense last year because they were ranked top 10, but I believe they're gonna tweak it to the way that they want the defense to look in the mirror, the eyes that they want to look at it. But I mean, I got high hopes for the defense with the players that we do have, and I believe we'll keep that defense still in the top 10 again this year because we're going to have even better players than we had last year because we had a lot of guys that were bargain basement players that we used last year to use that defense. Then you got to think Grady got hurt majority of that season, and we took Grady Jarrett out of the mix, and we still were a top 10 defense. So you got to add him back into the mix. And then a lot of those guys we took in the first round, those defensive tackles, the Ruka and the other guys in that draft that are going to help us, have a great collection of guys that we can rotate on that front end to be successful up front to get into getting after that quarterback like we want to do.
Hmm. Well, I mean, when you sit back and you look at it, the one thing that the guest that we're supposed to have coming on right now, he's still having some technical difficulties. He's working them out in the back. His defense was all about pressure. And when you look at the Falcons, Falcons have to have pressure this year. We were able to blitz last year, and we were able to be effective when we did. You know, when you look at that Dean Pease defense that we had for a while, that was a defense that was just different, and it just didn't work. It didn't work with the personnel. It didn't work with anything that we had going. At this point, all you can do is just sit back and say, "Wow, this is just a difference in just everything." But other than that, what's going on, Wallace? So, what we're gonna do right now, because Mr. Plank is still having issues, I'm getting ready to drop the link to the show right now, and I'm gonna let everybody come in while he's actually working on some things right now. So you guys can talk about what the expectations you guys are looking for. What do you see with the Falcons? What do you want to see, and what's coming up? So I'm getting ready to provide this link in the chat right now for you guys, and it is there. So come on in and we can talk a little bit about it. And while Mr. Plank is working on this stuff to try to get in, let's go ahead and talk to our Falcon fan and Falcon faithful who follow, so we can get a little something going.
I know
So
some
I
people
got a
out there.
topic for you.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the greatest defenders in this team's history. This is an off the wall topic. We're going, we don't really acknowledge players that are on this defense, and mainly the people that are always mentioned are Jesse Tuggle and Deion Sanders and Scott Case. Those are the three people that are mentioned, but there are so much more. So outside of those three players, what players do you think stood out during the test of time for Falcons football? I'm curious to know. What do you think?
I mean, we are not known for defense here. I mean, other than the early grits blitz days. I'm just saying that the totality of the franchise. So when you
Mm-hmm.
cut my legs off and take those few players, you could just say the Ray Buchanans of the world. I mean the what's my boy name? They went to Tech. Uh,
You say he went to Tech?
yeah, the linebacker. White
Keith
line.
Brooking.
Yeah, Keith Brookins of the world. I mean, you got some guys. I mean,
And
you got
Damien's mentioning his
you
uncle
got
Claude Humphrey too.
you got your Patrick Kearneys out there. I mean, we got some guys out there, but
I
just
I gotta say, I gotta say, outside of now, you just mentioned those guys. Everybody talks about John Abraham. You mentioned Patrick Kearney. I would have to say I would take a Cornelius Bennett, even though he was a little long in the tooth at the time. He still was very effective for us. And then you can't forget about Chuck Smith, who was an Iron Man for us for the longest. You know, and and it's the craziest thing that we've had great pass rushers, but we've just never been able to put everything together with those pass rushers. And you mentioned big play Ray. You had Ronnie Bradford playing at that corner / safety, and then you have Eugene Robinson. I gotta bring that name up, man.
I didn't I
Eugene
didn't
Robinson.
I didn't even want to mention him. So
Hey,
yeah.
but he played his part while he was here. He played his part while he was here.
Well, he didn't play a
And
part in the Super Bowl. I can tell you that.
well, we've got our guest of honor today. So I'm gonna go ahead and bring it up. I'm gonna introduce you to him, but the one thing that I'm gonna introduce you to him first is his playing days. He was one of the hardest hitting safeties that the NFL ever saw. And you can go back and look at that, and man, he was just nasty with it. But most of the hits he'd have now would probably he be playing for free, as most people know. He's one of the only men to tackle Earl Campbell head up back in the day. So there's not many guys that can say that. So what I'm getting ready to do is go ahead and pull up his clips for you so you guys can see his hits. So without further ado, this is going to be Mr. Doug Plank. Fair use, fair use, fair use.
Fair
I'm
use.
going to introduce you to Mr. Doug Plank. So without further ado, we have in the building tonight the legendary Chicago Bear hitman himself, aka the human missile, Mr. Doug Plank. This is who the 46 defense was named after, you guys. Welcome, Mr. Doug Plank, to the building. How you doing, Mr. Plank?
Gentlemen, how are you?
How you doing,
What's
sir?
going on?
Good to see you. Good to see you.
How you doing?
Well, I'm doing good. You know, it's like it's when you're playing football, you're always coming back from an injury, and
Yeah.
you know, I just look back on my injury. A lot of times, I had concussions more than anything else, but I still managed to, you know, to destroy some of my joints. And it's a process of, you know, as fun as the sport is, and as much as you enjoy it, the teamwork and the winning and losing and all those sort of things, working out. At the end of all that, you know, it's almost like racing a car in NASCAR. Nobody gets out alive. You know, you come back, you come in with broken up fenders and the tires are blown off the car. It's about the same for your body. I've had 4 joint replacements, 2 knees, 2 shoulders. I've had over 50 concussions. Concussion is, I looked at a concussion as something that I didn't know who I was, where I was, or what I was doing. If I answered any one of those questions, then I had a concussion. But you know, I used to take smelling salts before the game and stick them in my waistband because I knew I'd need them later on. And rather than trying to come to the sideline and, you know, how many fingers do I have out? They always had 2 fingers, so I knew that answer. So if you wanted to go back in the game, you could say 2 fingers. If you don't want to go back in the game, you said 3 fingers or 1 finger. And so it was quite an experience. And you know, I really feel like I learned a lot. I learned a lot about myself, you know, in terms of what I was willing to do, how much effort I was willing to give. And I think that's true for so many players. It's not just a physical thing, because there's a lot of great guys out there that have 30 vertical jumps and do all sort of things. But, you know, it's the mental conditioning. It's just to control your instincts and say, no, I'm coming back. I'm coming back every play, every game, every season, and continuing to just, you know, bring that same effort that you did at the beginning of the game. And, you know, it didn't hurt having coaches like Mike Ditka, Buddy Ryan. In college, I had Woody Hayes. You know, his last great feat was, you know, punching somebody on the sidelines after a game.
The Clemson game, ironically, and y'all are still rivals right now. Clemson and Ohio State, still rivals.
That was intense.
Oh, yeah. So welcome to the BirdCage. This is the On the Perch segment. We kind of kept it warm talking about one of the teams you coached for, the Atlanta Falcons. We were talking defense. And as I told my guy Killian, he played K-Dub. He was a defensive back as well, just like myself. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is what we call a defensive back trifecta right here. Let's get this straight. These are the real football players on the field. I'm standing 10 toes down on that one. So Mr. Plank, I played your position, as I said, You're one of the guys my dad showed me footage on when I was a kid. And, the one thing that Chicago has always had was tough defensive players. And that's just a moniker. You go back and look back at Dick Butkus, Bill George. You look back at Rosie Taylor that was playing in the secondary back in the day. And then, you look, and you look at Richie Pettibone, one of the greatest defensive coordinators that, was a heck of a safety back in the day. Big guy too. But getting back to it, we're talking about toughness. You're from the great state of Pennsylvania, right outside, not too far from Pittsburgh on the western side of
Yes.
things. What got you started into playing athletics? I'm sorry, not just football, just athletics. What got you into playing sports, and what did you use sports to get? How did you use sports to get you to college?
I'll say this: I grew up in a family, blue collar, working. My dad worked in factories his entire life, and I had an older brother and a younger brother, so I had three brothers. You know what? It's hard being a middle brother. You got to. What can you do to get attention from your parents? I mean, you got to do something spectacular. You got to fall out of trees, or you got to punch people, you got to knock people down. You got to do something. I mean, because my younger brother, he was a baby of the family. My older brother, he was the kind of the dad of the family, at least as far as the kids go. So I was always trying to get some attention and so what this did though, when you have three boys in a house, you break things all the time. You're knocking stuff over tabletops, ornaments on, we used to wrestle. I remember throwing my younger brother through a stereo. One of these stereos. I threw him through the speaker. But then we drove my mother crazy, literally. And I remember I was 9 years old at the time, and she said, "You kids have to get out of the house. I can't stand it any longer. You're driving me crazy. I'm losing my mind." So she got us all in the car, drove us down to where that Pee Wee football was. Sign up. We all signed up. We were on 3 different teams, and all of a sudden, before I knew it, I had a helmet on, shoulder pads. I didn't even know how to play football. Although in Pittsburgh, I'll say that. You grew up in Pittsburgh, you were a football fan. I mean, you loved the Steelers. Those people, to this day, you get in a plane where Pittsburgh is playing somewhere around the country. The plane coming into the airport is full of Steeler fans. And they got all their gear on. Some guys even wear helmets on the plane. They got jerseys and pants and you name it. So it's a loyal following. And, when I was younger too, I was trying in that pass, punt, and kick competition. I don't even know if they still have it now. But I was 9 years old, same year that my mother signed us all up for football. And I really could throw the ball far. And I like to punt. And so I used to practice punting all the time. Then it was, you had to put the ball on the tee. So that was the 3 things: throw it, punt it, kick it off the tee. And I won the position down in Pittsburgh. But there was like 11 or 12 locations that Sunday that were competing against each other. So even though I won the battle down in Pittsburgh at the halftime of an NFL game, somebody else in the country beat me. It was East against West, East of Mississippi, West of Mississippi. So I never really got a chance to be the king of all kings. But, I just loved football. And so I just continued to play it. I loved it because you can knock the heck out of people and not get slapped in the face. Instead of slapped in the face, you get a pat on the back. "Hey, Doug, great job. You really blasted that guy." And so, it was something that I loved to do. And it wasn't like, I think, that's one thing about football. That's a sport that has to be intrinsic inside of you. You have to have a desire to want to go ahead and run into other things. It's almost like that demolition derby that used to be on TV. Everybody got in a car and they were in a car lot. And they're driving all around. That's the way I felt football was. It wasn't to me about scoring. No, I loved the collisions. For me, that was the game. We lost. Okay, that's all right. I didn't put a lot into winning and losing when I was real early. It was a matter of just that thrill and excitement of running over somebody with the ball or crashing into them on defense.
Okay. I like that. Hey, look, you gotta have a taste for violence, baby. You gotta have a taste for hitting
Honestly,
somebody.
I think, I even all the way through my the junior high, the high school, the college. I was, you have to have some luck though, and I really had a lot of luck in playing football. Um, I worked for everything I had to. I played defensive back and quarterback in high school, and I wasn't getting any letters though. There was nobody coming knocking on my door. Hey, Doug, I'm the coach of this team. I want you to come down to the game and blah blah blah. There wasn't hardly any of that. That was my sophomore and junior year. So what I started to do, I go, what's wrong with accelerating this? Put it on steroids. I want to start writing letters to coaches around the area, West Virginia, Penn State, Pitt, Syracuse, all these schools that are in that area, Youngstown. So what I did was, going into my senior year, without really getting much notice and attention, I started writing these letters. And they were not just regular letters. You have to get a coach's attention.
Mm-hmm.
Letters would start like this. Dear coach, I really, 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 really want to come and play at Penn State, West Virginia, Pitt, whatever it was. You know what? Nobody's going to grab that letter and look at it and go, oh my gosh, this is just a regular kid interested in our college. No, this dude is like psyched up. He wants to come here so bad, he's going to do anything. And amazingly, after that letter, I get a response from Joe Paterno. And that's really where I wanted to go. I really, really wanted to go to Penn State. And that was back when you grew up in a state, you were like locked in loyalty to this coaches that were, in your state, like Penn State. And they always had good teams. They went to bowl games. And, Franco Harris was on that team. Just a whole bunch of other guys. I mean, they had great stars.
Yep.
And it was just so, I wrote letters to him each week what I did my senior year. And I didn't hear from him all year. But you know what? He was coaching a team. He was coaching an NCAA team, trying to get to a championship. And so it was as soon as the season was over, 2 weeks after the season was over, I get a call. And I get called down to the office. And who is in the office at Norwin High School but Joe Paterno? It blew me away. I go, are you Coach Paterno? You came to see Doug Plank. And you know what? He had all my letters like in an envelope like this, one of those, vanilla envelopes or vanilla whatever. And he had all my letters in there. He goes, Doug, after reading all these, I had to meet the guy that wrote these letters. Now, you know what? I truly believe, had I not written those letters, he would have never came. And what he did was, when he did come, he goes, Doug, I want to just come and meet you. He said, it's already we've already targeted and recruited players at your position. So I'm not here to recruit you. I'm here really on a trip and say thank you for your interest and your support for Penn State. And I asked him one question. I said, Coach, if anybody asked you about me, could you at least say that you had interest in me? Not that you were going to sign me, not that I was going to be a Penn State Nittany Lion, whatever. And he said, sure, Doug, I can do that. Well, the fact that he stopped at Norwin High School, that was in the Pittsburgh Press the next day. And that's how people were recruited back then. There was no internet. They were looking at newspaper articles. The next week, I got like 3 or 4 calls from coaches. They go, we saw that Coach Paterno came and visited you, Doug. Now, I wasn't going to tell him, yeah, he was just on a flyby mission. He just stopped to say hi and see you later. Thanks for the letter. So I said, no. I said, he not only stopped here, I said, he had great interest in me. And in his newspaper article, when they said Joe Paterno had much interest in Doug Plank in the article. That's all I needed. And I get a call from Ohio State, the assistant coach Earl Bruce, who later was the head coach there.
Yep.
He goes, Doug, we'd like to come over and talk to you. We saw that Joe Paterno stopped by your high school. We read it in the newspaper. I said, yeah. I said he has a lot of interest in me. He said, well, we have a lot of interest too. I want to come with Coach Hayes next week. We want to visit you. And I went, oh my God. Now, I never even thought of Ohio State, because they had just won a national championship at that time. Jack Tatum and Rex Kern and all those guys.
Mhm.
This is the big time. This is like this is a stage in between high school and NFL. Is playing at some place like Ohio State. I'm not saying they're the greatest team in the world. That's all an opinion. Some years they are. They got great. What that did for me though, when I got there, I wasn't prepared to ever play on AstroTurf, and I'm gonna let you guys ask questions too after this one point. I get there, I'm so fired up, I'm so excited. I'm at Ohio State. I'm going to do great things. I'm going to show everybody how good a player I am. I've never played on AstroTurf. That first day I played on AstroTurf, someone hit me. We were supposed to be in a walkthrough practice, helmets, T-shirts, shorts. And we're running around on the field, walking around on the field. And somebody on the other side, because I was a running back quarterback, so I was running with the ball, they hit me totally unexpected. And then they got on the ground. You ever see those alligators in those movies where they grab a hold of a victim and then they start turning and twisting? That's what this dude did to me. He got me on the ground. All I hear is pop, pop, pop. Well, I find out later I've torn all the cartilage. I've torn my ligament, my MCL by 50%. The second day at Ohio State, I'm in the hospital getting surgery on my knee as a freshman. You know what? Doug Plank is never going to have a walkthrough practice again. If you put a helmet on me, look out. I don't even care if we wear pants, shoulder pads. You're getting my best. Don't come near me because I'm not going to let anybody come near me after that. I'm not going to have to suffer another knee, by some unexpected player coming and rapping and hitting me. So that's just the attitude I took, and I just continued that for the 4 years that I was at Ohio State, and finally got a break. Playing at Northwestern, the guy that I was playing behind at Ohio State, Tim Fox, got hurt, high ankle sprain early in that game. And I had an interception that forced a fumble, and I made all the kickoff tackles. A Chicago Bears scout was at that game in Evanston. Evanston is a suburb of Chicago, so he just drove down to watch the game. But we were still number one in the country at that time. So I got drafted on one game. I was on the bench the next week, but it didn't matter. I was going to be picked as the 291st player in the 12th round in 1975. You know what? All I wanted to do was to get into the party. And that's what did it for me. That 12th round draft pick, that got me into the training camp for the Chicago Bears. And I said, you know what? I played at Ohio State. They had like 4 first rounders that year from all my class. I wasn't playing with like regular college players. These guys were all like NFL players. They were going into the NFL. I'm not intimidated. My roommate was Walter Payton. God bless the man. Super duper.
Mr. Plank, Mr. Plank, I gotta ask you. You just said 2 key words. That was my idol. That man there is the reason I put on a helmet and shoulder pads. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I'm showing a little bit of enthusiasm tonight when he said that. That was my idol. So, yeah, I'm going to show some enthusiasm. You were roommates with him.
Roommates. I roomed with him first year. Yeah.
Now, most folks don't know this. Now, Mr. Plank played with Archie Griffin, two-time Heisman Trophy winner.
Yeah.
And my idol, Walter Payton. Walter had 66 touchdowns in his 4-year career while he was at Jackson State, kicked extra points, ran kickoff returns back, and was literally had better numbers than your teammate. Now, Walter is a competitive sucker. Now, Jared told a story about Walter and Michael Jordan being in the house for about 6 hours, just gambling, shooting pool, playing Pac-Man, playing cards. Like, Walter was just that. Like, everybody talks about how Jordan was competitive. Walter had that soft voice, but was one of the most competitive people ever.
You know what? You're right. And I had all the respect for Archie Griffin. He did great, wonderful things. He was blessed going to school, college in the town he grew up in. I mean, how much better does it get than that? And then you're the Heisman Trophy winner. You got
twice.
to remember, the Heisman Trophy winner is not always compared against every player.
Yeah.
They're compared against a lot of players, but not a player that's in a smaller school that has a lesser schedule. Walter asked me one time in a room, in our dorm room, and he just, because he was so competitive. That first training camp we had, where they brought in the rookies and everything, and it was down in Florida. Our new coach, Jack Pardee, had coached in the World Football League in Florida. So I forget what team it was. So we all went down there. I'm going, why are we going to Florida? I mean, I know it's warm and we weren't anywhere near the ocean or anything, but we practiced this very small, it was in high school. In 5 minutes on the field with Walter, I'm going, this guy, I've never seen anybody like this guy. I mean, and he brought fear because he was so powerful. Before we went out in the field, they strength tested us. And they back strength testing back then was get on the universal machine, not weights, that was too sophisticated. No, let's get on this. My first year in the Chicago Bears, we in Ohio State, we had a universal machine. We had a universal machine, and that was it. Because one of our great players was starting to work for the Universal Weightlifting Company after they left Ohio State. So then, to kiss, and make up, and okay, let's find something off the former player. We had that for our weight. You got to be kidding me! The Universal machine. We had one even when we first got to Chicago, but they had just hired a weight coach, Clyde Emmerich, who was an Olympic weightlifter himself. This dude was like all about power and force, but we still had that universal machine in the weight room. Walter came in and went around that machine and put it on the pin on the lowest degree, and then he ran 10 reps with the bam, 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 the bench press, the overhead, the leg extensions with one leg, 150 pounds. I mean, I thought he was going to break the machine. I really did. I mean, and you know what? You get on the field, he was running over some people. Now, all we had was helmets, and we had no shoulder pads or anything like that. But you know what? You put a helmet on somebody that plays football, that's a switch that says, okay, NASCAR, we're on now. It might not be, people think we're going to go around the tracks. Well, no, you give me that helmet, look out. And like I told you before, I was done with walkthroughs my first day after surgeries. So I'm not embarrassed to tell you I was tackling people. I was tackling people with shorts on, t-shirts, and a helmet. Because you know what? Nobody's going to tackle me again. Nobody's going to block me except Walter Payton. I mean, he had a stiff arm that 100-pound dumbbell. I mean, I can't even explain it. It was so explosive. And it wasn't just like he pushed you to the ground. No, there was just like huge bam, and then wow, you felt yourself flying through the air. And you know what he did? He was unbelievable at just prior to a collision, he coiled almost like an animal, like a rattlesnake or something. Boom! He shot out last second before you were closing on him. Oh no! A lot of times he was great at looking the other way. That was all bait for you to just keep, come on in. At the last minute, he turned on you with all this incredible strength and muscles, and you're flying through the air. I tried tackling Walter one time at that mini camp. I wasn't very successful at it. That is the last time I ever tried to hit him, because you know what? Huge respect for him, and I also realized he was our offense. He punted, he threw the ball, he caught the ball. He could, he led the team, and because we had some really interception throwing quarterbacks. Walter led our team in tackles on the guys that intercepted the ball. Walter went after it like the Butkus.
I can name three of your quarterbacks off the bat.
Yeah, I know that.
I'm not gonna do it.
I mean, it was not pretty at the end of it. It was
nope.
It was a crunch. I just, it made me feel like, Doug, you got to really step up your game. This is what the NFL is, Mr. Walter Payton, and I'm just as crazy as I thought I was, it was nothing like Walter. You know, his intensity and his determination, and it just, you know, just knowing him, it made you a better player because you think about this now. We're on the sideline watching an offense out there, you know. So the defense, you saw when they came off the field, everybody came off and got a drink real fast and sat on the bench because they wanted to see the Walter Payton show. And it wasn't like guys were just coming down not paying attention. No, I ran over there right away. I'm going to be seeing great things here. And some of the guys he ran over were just incredible and blocking and throwing. And he was just such a pleasure to be around.
And you guys' room is your rookie year, but when you get to now you describe playing at Ohio State, and that was pretty much like boot camp. But you transition from Woody Hayes, one of the greatest college football coaches in college football history, to going to one of the greatest defensive minds in NFL history, and one of the best. How can I put it? I would say he's the best. He was the best coach to get everything he could get out of a person because he understood how to communicate with people and how to push them to become great. You went from Woody Hayes to the legendary Buddy Ryan. Talk to us about what that transition was like.
Well, I'll just say this. I told you about my injury the first day. So my freshman year, I'm done. That was the last year freshmen were not eligible to play varsity football in the NCAA. 1971. 1972, if you came in as a rookie, as a freshman, you could play goes any big time. But up till that point in time, up till 1971, if you were a freshman coming into an NCAA team, you could not play on it. You had it wasn't JV. It was kind of like a rookie league where you would go around and play other teams. It's kind of crazy. Again, this is in college, and so it didn't matter anyway because I was getting operated on the second day, so I wasn't worried. It meant nothing to me. What I did was, once that time off, I realized I wasn't as strong, and I didn't really have the mentality of competing at a higher level. So what I did that year was I just started really training myself both athletically and mentally to be prepared for the next round when it came in the spring football. And spring football, I think back then was like 15 or 20 practices that you were allowed to have within a 30-day period, I think it was spring practices. It was NCAA rules. They allowed you to have so many practices, and it was like maybe 3 a week. And usually it was culminated with a spring game. And, but I learned all the plays. I lifted weights thoroughly, strong, but I still had a lot of great players in front of me. Neil Colsey played in the league a long time.
Wow.
Tim Fox.
That's a name I haven't heard in a while, Mr. Colsey.
Yeah, Neil Colsey was, I think, Miami. He got drafted by, I think he actually played for the Raiders.
Yep.
He came from Miami. Tim Fox was a first-round pick from New England Patriots. And, all these guys, these weren't like chumps. Steve Luke was a fourth-round pick from the Green Bay Packers. Big, solid boundary corner. What do I say by boundary? In college football, the hashes are wide. So if the ball was on the real wide hash, you would put your most athletic players on the open side and fastest. On the back side, that's where teams ran like tosses into the boundary. So it was very narrow, and you better be ready to get clubbed. That was smash mouth football on the back side of that football toss because there was nobody outrunning anybody. You were crashing into blockers, guards, tight ends, and big running backs, and your skilled players and fast players would go to the open field. So I was a boundary corner. So that's what they thought of my coverage skills. We didn't play a lot of man-to-man. It was almost all three deep zone all the time. But sometimes if you get overwhelmed with talent, you can do things like play simple, basic defenses, like 3 deep, because the athletes we had in the pass rush, pass rush was kind of plain Jane too. I mean, It wasn't until I got to NFL football, I go, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize you could do all these things. Coverages and have a lot of times they would have a free safety just be a free agent. He wouldn't have any responsibilities, and they called it different defenses. You were like you really truly were a free safety. The ball was snapped, and the corners played like cover two. They were both responsible for half the field deep, and I was supposed to sit in the middle and take away all the crossing routes and slants. And back then, in 1975, if a receiver was coming across the middle on a crossing route, and you were the free safety, your job was to take him out. What do you mean take him out? Club him in the head. Now this is all. Well, I'm not saying this is Doug Plank rules. This is NFL rules. And as long as the ball wasn't thrown, you could destroy receivers. And I one time my friend Kurt Schumacher, who was a first-round draft pick on the tackle for New Orleans Saints, we played him that year, and he said, Doug, I want to tell you a funny story. He said we were playing you guys, and our favorite was we ran crossing routes, and we had our starting wide receiver say, "I'm not running that crossing route this week," and the coach says, "Why not?" They go, "Doug Plank is in there. He doesn't even care about the ball. He is going to take me out. He's going to close." And he's right. I probably was, as long as the ball wasn't in the air. And it's funny. Here's my point. At Ohio State, the position I played was strong safety, where I played this boundary corner. The boundary corner was really a free safety. He had limited cover skills, but it was cramped space. You're not going to be throwing all kind of intricate routes into the boundary of the field. There's no room there. How many times you watch a college game, they're not throwing into that weak side. They're throwing into the strong side. Mm-hmm. So you got to be a good tackler, take on guards, all that sort of thing. And so I get to the Chicago Bears, and the hash marks are different. The whole game is different on defense. And the guy that got hurt that year was a starting free safety for the Chicago Bears on the first preseason game. And Jack Pardee, our coach, walks into the meeting room and goes, "Hey, listen, I just found out Gary Lau, our starting free safety, has got knee injury. He's going to have surgery. He's out for the year. Have any of you guys played free safety?" I thought, what do I have to lose? I'm a 12th round draft pick. They expect me to lose, get cut anyway. I put my hand up. I go, "Coach, I love free safety. That's all I've ever played at Ohio State." He goes, "Okay, you along with two other guys." Now, I wasn't as good covering, crossing routes and stuff like that as these guys were, because they were a lot lighter than I was. They didn't go in the weight room. They weren't into total destruction, out there on the field. I was, and that's what the coach wanted. He wanted free safety to be like a deep linebacker, and I just started watching end zone film. When you go through life and you have a job and you have a job description, why not try to duplicate whatever you've got to do in life? Look at it, study it as much as you can before you have to go through it yourself. So I found out that there's an end zone camera in football. You can watch end zone film all you wanted. Now, I never watched it at Ohio State, mostly because the kickers watched it. That's about the only people who watch the end zone. I thought, I can watch end zone and learn how to be a free safety. I can watch the center, the two guards. I can learn when it's running pass. Not because of the quarterback and the running backs. They can fake all they want. Linemen don't come downfield on passes. Linemen, when they come across the field, it's a run. It doesn't matter whatever else they fake. Plus the old fake and toss back to the quarterback or the fullback, flea flicker plays. Those trick plays didn't work for me because I watched the guards and centers, and they told me to run pass every single time. I can say I got caught one time, maybe misreading that at the time I was trying to come back from a concussion. And sometimes you're not thinking the best when you're coming back from concussions. But You know what? When those guards crossed that line of scrimmage, I'm telling you, I was hell-bent on getting that line of scrimmage as fast as I could and cause destruction.
So It's okay though. What you got for Mr. Plank? Because I got a ton of questions, but I know you've been itching to ask a couple of questions to Mr. Plank.
I mean, hey, he's very entertaining. He has a great memory for his age about how he played. Hey, look, but just playing for Buddy Ryan. I mean, just expound on some our listener subscribers on just playing for him and being like one of his favorite players. Like just being but part of the Hitmen. You know what I'm saying, with Gary Finnick. Yeah, just
Yep.
talk about those days, man.
You know what? I was going to practice my second year in 1976. This is ancient history now. And on the side of the road. I'm out in the country now. I'm going to a town. It's called Lake Forest, where we practice in North Chicago. We're not in tall buildings and skyscrapers. No, this is way out in the country. This is farmland. And I'm driving on this road to Lake Forest College where we practice. And I see a car broke down and some kid's thumbing, out there thumbing. I'm thinking, he doesn't have a hoodie on. Would it be dangerous for me to pick him up? I don't know. Probably not. He's just by himself out here picking corn or whatever. His car's right there. I pick him up and I go, "Hey, where are you going?" He goes, "Lake Forest." I said, "Well, come on in here. I'll drop you off." And we're talking, and I said, "Where do you want dropped off here? In town?" He goes, "No, I'm going over to Lake Forest College." I go, "Well, that's where I'm going. That's where we practiced over at Lake Forest College." I go,
Yeah.
"What are you doing there?" He goes, "I'm trying out for the team today." He goes, "I just got cut by the Miami Dolphins as a receiver, and I'm trying out for the Bears." And I said, "Oh, really?" I said, "Well, that's where we're going." I said, "I played for the Bears." I said, "I'm going to." It was Gary Fensick. It's just crazy how the world, how things work out like they do. And Gary was a receiver at Yale, and he was a receiver in Miami.
Yeah.
And, so the first year he was there, he played on special teams, but he usually sat in the back of the room with his hood on, protected like nobody could see him. Sleeping. He was sleeping, and all he did was play on special teams. He goes, "Doug, I learned how to play safety by watching you." He goes, I saw how fast you got to the line of scrimmage, and I said, you had good reads. You read the linemen real well, and so the next year, Gary was really smart. He picked up all kind of defenses quick, never made a mistake, and so it was fun playing with him. My second year in the league, and third year actually played full time. And here's the other thing too. It's fun to be on a field somewhere, almost like your wife all the time. I have a great wife. She does so many things. She does all the paperwork and shopping, and I basically just live here. I just breathe and eat, and that's my job here at the house. My wife does everything else, the landscaping, picking out the chairs and, and so.
Oh man.
Gary, when I was playing with him, we started talking like when we were watching that film together. "Hey, Doug, did you see this?" Or "That Gary, did you see that?" So we were always talking, even like in the game. Before the game, we would actually challenge each other. Who could get more tackles? Who could get more interceptions? Who could break up more passes? It was a game. So even though we would be losing in a game, and there were sometimes, honestly, Gary and I knew we were going to get our butts beat against the Pittsburgh Steelers, against the Rams. There was no way our offense was going to score. With Walter Payton, because here's our offense. Walter left, Walter right, screen pass to Walter, and then Walter should have punted. He should have been our punter because he could punt further than our punter could. And that was it. That was our offense.
And you still had two pretty decent receivers. Not you had your old Ohio State teammate Brian Bashnagel, and then you also had James Scott at the outside too, and Golden Richards too.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, you're right about that. But you know what though? Great receivers need to catch the ball first.
Yes, they do.
You mentioned people that were throwing the ball before that. I love Bobby Douglas. When I first got there, he was there. A left-hander from Kansas. Yep. Huge guy, like 6'3", 6'4", run over people. And you know what? He threw a ball like a knuckleball. Like it didn't move or anything. It just like went through the air. But he could throw it. He was just a big guy. So but he wasn't part of an intricate offense. You know, when we had like Mike Phipps and then Bob Evelini
and Jane and my man Vance Evans.
yeah, here's what I say about Vince. I love Vince Evans. This man had so much talent and skill. He could run. He could do everything. We didn't have a teacher that could coach Vince into being an All-Pro. You know what we did with Vince when he first came? We were so perplexed how to handle all this talents. He could run. He could throw. I mean, he threw bullets. I mean, he cranked up, man. He could throw the ball 60, 70 yards down the field. And he could run. He was fast. They didn't know what to do with Vince. Here's what they did with him. They made him the kickoff returner. That's what Vince Evans did his rookie year. He returned kickoffs. Now, come on. What kicker? I've never heard of one kicker in the NFL. Oh, yeah. He's going to be on our kickoff team. He's going to return all the kicks. I'm thinking, this guy, he's got talent. He can run. He can do everything. And I just think in the right situation, the right team, the right coach, Vince could have been unstoppable. And great guy, great person. I mean, quality individual. You know, never going to tell you a lie. You know, get there early, stay late. You know,
y'all had one of the best comebacks on that was, I think that was Thanksgiving night, and you guys played the Detroit Lions. Walter Payton had one of the most iconic runs where he runs through all those Detroit Lions on that run, and then at the end of that game, you guys are, you know, Vance Evans runs it in on the 1 yard line and takes you guys to overtime, and then I always forget his last name. I know his first name is Davey, and I always forget his last name. You guys, he was the other running back, and he played receiver as well. Can't think of his name.
Yeah, you're challenging my brain power now. I've destroyed a lot of memories.
You said, wait a minute. You say you destroyed a lot of memories. I'm sorry. No, hey, you know what? I'm not laughing because I might be that way one day. So Lord, forgive me for laughing.
Was that the game where? Yeah, you're right. His first name was Dave.
You guys won it in overtime, and that was in Detroit.
And what happened on the next play? Dave
Williams. Dave Williams was the guy who ran it back. I had to remember that. And
oh my God. Dave, you know what? Dave was the sweetest, another talented individual. You know what? I'm not saying, okay, I was a coach for like 10 years. I'm not saying I was the greatest coach. But you know what? I can recognize the talent somebody has. And not only do they have talent, you got to have talent, you got to have heart and say, okay, I'm going to team this heart up with this talent. You got Walter Payton. You got him like, he looks like Mr. Happy, you know, until you get, you know, oh man.
Howie Long described it. I don't know if you ever heard him say it because they did. So ESPN, you know, they did Sports Century on Walter. And Howie Long said at the beginning of the video, you know, he said, Walter challenges your manhood. He says he's a nasty little cuss. And he says, you honestly look fear in the eyes when you see Walter Payton coming at you. And he said, there's not many guys that can make you fear him. But, you know, there's so many stories that are told about, you know, I've heard his best friend, Robert Brazil, who was a Jackson State teammate of his. He said, man, tackling Walter was like tackling the Jeep. You just knew every time you played him. Jim Marshall talked about it. He said, Walter is like James Brown, the hardest working man. That was how he described it. And outside of Walter, looking at your defense, you guys went from 26 at the time. When Buddy gets there, you guys get into the top 10 overnight because Buddy definitely transitioned that defense. You know, you still had the veteran Doug Buffon there, God rest his soul. He was the elder statesman of that defense. You had two Southern University boys. I gotta shout out my boys from Southern, Mr. Jim Osborne, and then you also had, excuse me, I was actually getting, and Wally Chambers.
You know what? I'm glad you mentioned Wally. I mean, I was that guy. Oh my gosh! If you remember back in the day of the old head slap, oh my gosh, I heard this whap, whap. Wally's right in front of me. He like lights guys up. They're like going woo out of the screen. I mean, it's like I have never seen a lineman like Wally. I mean, he was tall too. He had unbelievable reach. The nicest guy. He had this deep laugh all the time. I know Wally was like one of those. I'm so sorry we traded him to Tampa. I don't think it worked out as well down there for him. He would have been an unbelievable person in this 46 defense we ended up with. And you know what happens though? Sometimes when you're the star on defense, everybody concentrates on you. Everybody puts their game plan together to go after you and block you, like double, three guys, four guys, and it wears you down. I mean, it takes its toll. And you know, every time that we ever played Wally, you know, I know that we were trying to do everything we could. You know, one guy hit him high, and the next guy would come in, you know, chop him down. You know, obviously those are not allowed anymore. You can't hold a guy up like this and have your teammate come in and wipe his knees out. I'm just saying, we weren't trying to break the rules. The rules are like as they were. You know, that's block, and you know, just incredible. Like I said, with the crossing routes, as long as the balls weren't thrown, you could do anything you wanted to the guy. You could chop his legs, you know, on a crossing route. I mean, who wanted to be a receiver? Not me. I didn't want to be a receiver. I wanted to be the guy hitting the receiver.
and that is something that you did well. Mr. Jimmy Giles can remember you from that. When you came across and you took him out. You know, I got it. You know what? Just to take a quick break, just to look at this here, I got to show the folks what you did to Mr. Jimmy Giles. I'm sorry. See, when you said receivers and tight end, see, and you also hit a Hall of Fame receiver in Mr. James Lofton. Some of your best shots came with some of the best players in the league. You know, you also hit Drew Pearson. I love that you took Drew Pearson out. Drew's a nice guy. I met him off the field. He's a real nice guy. But God, boy, those Cowboys they just irked me.
You know what it was too? They get on there and they had these girls. Well, I forget. They weren't cheerleaders. They were like dancers or something. They called them something. I don't want to be incorrect in making up a name that they look like. But anyway, their little outfits, you couldn't show more skin than those outfits that showed you. You know, like, and here's what was happening. They would get those girls and put them right behind the visitors' bench, and they're shaking and bending over like this, you know, so you're getting a shot all the way down their body and everything. And, you know, it was so hard to watch the game and not turn around and watch the girls all night. You know, they locked your attention. And it was all a distraction. It was all to take your mind from where it is out here on the field, and we're going to go out there and rock them, sock them, to these girls that are, you know, kicking their legs up and down, and they got these outfits on that look like, whew, man. You get a picture
off the game, didn't it?
You get a picture after the game. You know, it's like that kind of stuff.
Well, well, fair use, ladies and gentlemen. This is one of Mr. Doug Plank's monster hits that we talked about.
Kevin House, the rookie from Southern Illinois, they never talked about. Incomplete. He's looking for Jimmy Giles and Bruce Herron.
That's just like a Grambling guy. Shout out to Doug Williams, but that's just like a Grambling guy. Grambling guys always are crying. Stop crying. Southern University boys don't cry. That's what they build over there at Grambling. Respect Mr. Doug Williams, though. I love Mr. Williams. He's a nice man.
Jim Osborne, that's a man there. I love Jim. We were best of friends. I was attracted to him. So, you know, he took accounting in college, and he would always help everybody with their tax returns. Not that we were making any money. You know, we were under $20,000. So it was real fast for him. He could do the whole team's income tax return in like 10 minutes. You know, sign your name at the bottom. We got no deductions or, I mean, it was a laugh. I mean, I averaged $45,000 with the Bears for 8 years. And,
wow.
You know, it was, I finally made $100,000 my last year, but I started out 17, 18, 19,000. And That's what bothered me about that game too. I was, I was on the lower end of the scale, and so you were making, I don't know, like maybe 3,000 a game. Um, Again, when I got fined for Jimmy Giles, the week before we had played the Pittsburgh Steelers, and in tackling Franco Harris, I broke 4 of my ribs, and one of our players came in, and it's the piles that really make a difference. And there was a lot of players coming in hitting Franco, but I landed on Franco's foot, and he was laying on his back, and his foot was laying up like this. And when I landed on it, I landed directly coming down, and I broke these ribs. I mean, it felt like someone stuck me in the chest with a knife, and I went, oh my God. So I get taken out of the game, and I don't practice all week. And it was a Monday night game. That was a Monday night game that we showed because you can see the darkness. And so I had 8 days, but I didn't practice. And finally, I was told on our Sunday walkthrough. Usually, it was a Saturday walkthrough. The Sunday walkthrough was just go through all your plays you're going to run for that next game. And then you go to and then everybody goes home and comes to the stadium the next day. And Buddy Ryan says, you know what, Doug? I've changed my mind. He said, we're going to take your equipment to the stadium, Soldier Field, and then just in case somebody gets hurt or something, you might play. I went, okay. And I said, that's fair. So I get down there. My locker is filled with all my equipment. I'm not only down there, and he was going to make like a game time decision. He goes, Doug, we decided you're going to play tonight. You're going to start. I said, I'm going to start. He goes, yes. Then Mr. Jimmy Giles, he said he's going to be running down the route, down the middle. And he says, we're going to bait him. We're going to run cover 2. Cover 2 is when the only safeties are deep. The wide open, middle of the field is wide open. And in fact, Buddy wanted myself and Fencing to spread out and get wider. And you know what? Jimmy Giles, come down the middle. It's like we were baiting me. He said, Doug, I want you to do one thing tonight. I want you to watch Jimmy Giles on every play. And every time you break that huddle, you tell yourself, Jimmy Giles is coming down the middle. Jimmy Giles is coming down. Well, I went out there in pregame, and you could do things like catch balls and stuff like that and run and turn. You break 4 ribs. Those don't heal in 1 week. If you sneeze, you cough, you bend over, it feels like someone stabbed you in the stomach. I'm literally just you're going, You can't even regain your oxygen for like 30 seconds. Well, we got something for you, Doug. You got to go in the training room. So when you're in the training room, this is Soldier Field. They have, I'm looking around here. The needle is much longer than this, okay? It was about 6 inches, okay?
Wow.
That went in my rib cage. And not just one time, multiple times. And after they were done squirting stuff in there, I couldn't feel anything. I had no pain. But on the other hand, it is really odd in your body when they Novocaine, Xylocaine, whatever. You touch your body and it's like it's something else. It's like an inanimate, like touching a table or something. You can't touch it. You can't feel anything. And so even that, I went out there in pregame, and you always have a tackling drill too. It's not like anything serious, just form tackling and stuff like that. Man, even then, it still hurt my ribs a lot to tackle. I told Buddy, I said, you know what, Coach? I said, I have a hard time grabbing people and tackling, and that's not my style anyway. You noticed all those hits. I don't grab and tackle somebody. You ever miss a tackle running full speed at somebody like an Earl Campbell? Not only are you going to miss a tackle, Earl Campbell is going to see this arm here. He's going to take it off your body and he'll rip it off your body. There ain't no way I'm going to run down the field like this. Hey, I'm a kite. Here I come at you. No way. I'm going to be a bowling ball. I'm going to be a tight circle. I'm going to try to exert as much force as I can threw my helmet and shoulder pads. And I kept watching this all night long, Jimmy Giles. The other thing is, when he comes down the field, he takes an inside release on the snap of the ball. I never saw him take an outside release until that play just before halftime. When I saw it, I went, holy SHIT, it's coming. It's coming. And sure enough, he came. Here's what happened. I was going to actually aim for a different spot than I did. But our linebacker, Bruce Herron, he was running right behind or right alongside Jimmy Giles. He got tripped up in the footing. So now, at the last second, when I'm getting ready to hit Jimmy Giles, I see our linebacker, Bruce Herron, stumbling and fumbling right in front of Jimmy Giles. This all is happening in split seconds. And Bruce Herron is down below Jimmy Giles. And I have to actually clear him to go hit Jimmy Giles. This is the only way I could have done it. And I was planning on spearing him anyway. You know, I threw that helmet right in his shoulder pads, boom, knocked him on his back. You know what? His production went down 50% the rest of the year. You know why? Every time he ran down the field, he thought of, you know what? Somebody out there is maybe going to take my rib cage out. And
Yep.
I don't blame him. I mean, that's exactly what it was. We crushed Tampa Bay that night. I want to say it was like 30-0 or 31-0 or something.
Mm.
You know what? They couldn't handle it. Like after that hit, they were sending linemen down on after me. Like I'm in the secondary, you know, trying to just look at the play or the running play. They got like 4 linemen. They don't even block anybody. They just run down and try to block me. And they're trying to dive in the back of my legs. They got so many penalties called on them, they just blew their mind. And even Coach McKay, their coach, said, you know, we did a great disservice for the NFL tonight. You know, we embarrassed them. We embarrassed the league by our performance. Yeah, because you were all trying to get me. And I wasn't penalized on the play. Yet I get a letter on Monday from the commissioner, Pete Rozelle, that I'm going to get fined $5,000. Well, I didn't even make $5,000 that game. $5,000 is after taxes. So you have to make like $8,000 or $9,000 to pay a $5,000 penalty. So I protested. I go to New York. I sit in front of like 18 people at a table. You know, you could barely see the other end of it at the NFL headquarters. Pete Rozelle, you know, the commissioner down at the end of the table, and he goes, Doug, I would like you to watch this film, you know, and watch it very carefully. So they turn the film on to play. This film, it's frame by frame by frame by frame. And they finally get to the frame where I'm just getting ready to hit Jimmy Giles. They go, Doug, couldn't you have done something else? Couldn't you have hit him lower? I said, I really didn't want to hit him in the testicles, because I did that one time to Earl Campbell. You guys might have seen the hit. It knocked him out of the game. Earl used to wear metal thigh pads. And then in a game before we played them against Denver, he knocked out a safety, Steve Foley, knocked him out. And they were showing the film on usually on a film when you're watching of a Denver team, if the play stops, they show the next lineup where the offenses line up to run the next play. No, not this time. They showed the people coming on the field, picking up Steve Foley with a tourniquet, with the stretcher, putting him on one of those carts, and then wheel him up. It was intimidation. Like, don't get in this guy's way, because he's going to run you over, and you're going to be sorry for the rest of your life. And
most definitely, because he definitely is paying the price for that. My guy K-Dub, he's got to take care of some stuff behind the stage for us.
Yeah.
So he definitely appreciate you stepping on the camera tonight, K-Dub. I'm gonna finish up with Mr. Plank. Got a few more questions for him tonight. So thank you for coming through.
Yeah, I just wanted to say,
some of these stories take too long. And
oh no, you're good, Mr. Plank, because I'm gonna get to my questions. Trust me.
You're good, Mr. Plank. I just wanted to say thank you for stepping in, and it'll be great. Good talking to you tonight. That's all.
No, it's great. You know what? I love the NFL. I mean, honestly, it's changed my life, and I do broadcasting now for a company, you know, Sports USA Media out of California. I do NFL games, and you know, it's just it's amazing being around people. They go, oh my gosh, Doug Plank, Chicago Bears. I go, no, stop. Take a deep breath. It's not really that special. It was somebody that was always just trying to take advantage of a situation and getting to the next step. And I tried to work hard. I lifted weights. I got injuries though, like everybody else, and I've got stories. And I've got one, like I said, I got a brain that has 1% of its hippocampus cells left after 20 some concussions. You know what? I would change it. I wouldn't change a thing. I mean, not only the experience, the friendships that I had with the Bears and other teams, Ohio State, and other people that I met and played against. Oh my God, it's like they're like brothers. They're brothers, man. That's just it's a
big fraternity. It's like a big fraternity.
You're right. You're right. You'll do anything for them. And I got to tell you, so many times on the field, man, I cried for somebody that did a job for me by either taking out a blocker or a ball carrier or something like that, and made me look like somebody special when I really was going to get my butt kicked if somebody else didn't go ahead and make a great play.
So we're gonna bid my guy K-Dub adieu. It's just me and you now tonight.
Hey,
so we can finish up on this one here. So we're not finished. We got a little bit to go because I know we started, a little early and you came on in. I know you were having some technical difficulties and we got them straight. But now let's talk about the 46 defense. Now we know it well for just the regular fans, that defense is all about pressure. If you can't blitz and you can't put pressure on an offense, you can't play it. And you have to have the personnel to do it. Now, I'm a student of the game, as you know, Mr. Plank, because you and I have had some conversations, and the way that I studied you guys, and I looked at how everybody talks about the 85 Bears, but this is what they don't realize. Before 1985, this defense was played. This defense was being tailored towards you guys' personality because you guys were very intelligent. This is something that a lot of people don't understand. You have to be intelligent to play that type of defense. And then a Buddy Ryan defense, you have to understand football, period.
Yep.
So with the defense being called the 46, now it's a story. They said was you guys as linebackers went down and they put you down in the box. Mr. Fensick told the story. He says Doug was built like a little linebacker, so we put him in the box, and he said you played really well. And from that day forth, you guys started bringing in pressure. But you was a story you told me about the Atlanta Falcons when you guys played against them in training camp, and you got to see what Jerry Glanville did with Fulton Kuykendall, Jeff Merrill, and Dewey McClain, and those guys. What was that experience like, seeing that, and then you guys started to perfect?
You know what? I truly believe if we wouldn't have gone to Atlanta and had our offense taken advantage of, I never saw Walter get tackled in the backfield like I did with Atlanta. You know why? It wasn't read and react. They're in these defenses, these aggressive defenses, there's nothing about reading. You're attacking right now, and you're attacking the lanes. The 46 defense, my buddy, he said, Doug, we're gonna move you from the free safety position in 46. He goes, you're no free safety. He said, you're leading the team in tackles, which I did. I led the team my rookie year, which had never, ever been done in the history of the Chicago Bears. Now, since my retirement, there's been only one other player that's done that, and it was Brian Urlacher, and he's in the Hall of Fame.
Yep.
And he's a linebacker. How does a safety make all the tackles? How can a safety be the leading tackler on a team? That means your team sucks bad. You know what?
Yes.
And I'm not saying our team sucked bad. We were 4-10 that year when I led the team in tackles. I wasn't really crazy about tackling guys coming through 4 or 5 yards through the line of scrimmage. I was wishing, hey, somebody please make this tackle. Because you get a 250, 60, 70-pound fullback as a safety, a 200-pound safety. Those aren't fun people to tackle. You got not only big, powerful runners, but guys like O.J. Simpson, they were masters at changing direction, going in one direction, planting a foot, coming back. I mean, O.J. was awesome at that. and just giving you an indication like he was going to go left and he went right, and right versus left. And but anyway, when Buddy came in and showed this one day to us, but in football, Buddy was not about names. You were a number. He would call you a number all the time. The moment you came into the building to the moment you left that building, he'd call you your number. So he wasn't calling me Doug Plank, 46, 46, 46. Didn't matter who you were, first round, second round, 12th round, like I was, didn't matter. And he came in and he said, this team, their pass rush sucks. I said, we can't even get to the quarterback. He said, this is what I've got planned. And here's what I didn't plan on. He says, Doug, you're going to make all the calls. You got to know what you're doing. I said, every play, you could make 4 different calls on one play. The calls were based on down and distance. What down it was, how much distance there was on the field, where the ball was on the field, and also who was in the game. So you can imagine, I'm digesting all this like a computer now. When I get out there on the field and I see a formation, who's in the formation? What's the down and distance? How much for 1st and 10? Where are we on the field? We would study those films, the last 5 games that team had played. We would know exactly what play they're likely to run in that position. So we all played probabilities. Like you said about the main thing about that team was destroy the quarterback. And whenever there was an interception in the game on 46 defense or against any defense Buddy ran, the guy with the ball is on his own. There's no blockers. Where are the 10 other guys? They are hitting the quarterback. And if it got so bad, knocking quarterbacks out of games, as soon as the quarterback would throw an interception against us, they would either fall on the ground or they would run as fast as they could to the sideline. This was hilarious. I mean, it was funny watching it. And, you couldn't find a quarterback because once he saw that ball was picked off, he hit the dirt. And everybody tried to protect him. And
yep. And that's a way that you can protect, that's the way that you can protect them. But getting to protecting, we got to get to another part of the interview. Your injury. You got injured before a few years before the 85 Bears took place because you'd been right there with Finsick and Walter and all those guys. You got taken out by a serious injury, and you chose your mortality, which I definitely can understand that side of the game because I, had to do it when I was a little younger. But, I understand that part. But you were at the highest level, one of the best safeties in the game at the time, and you had to transition to the real world. What was it like transitioning from one locker room to getting to the real world, and how did you figure out how to get through that? Because I got veterans on here that are watching this right now, because a lot of us go through a transition when we get out of the military. So it's not like your transition, but we definitely can relate when you say you got to transition to something else, and it's not the easiest thing.
Well, you know what? There's an old saying, the NFL doesn't stand for National Football League. It stands for not for long. And the longer that you're on a team, you understand that the greater and greater probability someday someone's going to knock on your dormitory door, in training camp or even out there during the season, and say, the head coach wants to see you and bring your playbook with you. That was interpretation for your days are over. And so I never thought about that. I always thought about it, and I didn't know when the end was going to be. There was Darryl Stingley situations, when I was playing, and there were players that were getting hurt, physically for life. And so what I did in the off season, I always tried to work a different job. I was a home builder. I sold life insurance one year. I was, I got a real estate license, started building some construction, rehab, remodels, houses. But one of the things that I did my 5th year in the league I was asked to sign autographs at a Burger King restaurant in Chicago, which I did. And I was, whenever I went and did something, I always tried to talk to as many people as guests and the person that was actually inviting me out to maybe give a talk or give sign autographs. I always went to them first and said, thank you for inviting me out. I'll try to do the best job I can, entertaining your fans, your customers, whatever. In this situation, it was a Burger King restaurant, and this was a franchised restaurant. So after it was all done, I just said, you know what, and people were so nice to me, the customers, the employees. I said, how did you ever get involved in this business? And this owner of the store said, Doug, I did this. I was an employee, a manager, part owner, and then I finally got to be a franchisee. He said, if you're interested in this, he said, I know the local vice president, regional vice president. I can set something up for you to get interviewed and see if this is something you really want to do. This is my 5th year now. This is in the off season. The next week, I'm talking to that guy on the telephone. He said, Doug, rather than you being in Chicago working at a Burger King, he said, we'd like you to go to Detroit, Michigan. We have one of our Midwestern offices over there, and you can work there for 60 days in a Burger King. 60 days now. That was almost like not a whole off season, but 2 months. So I worked there. I got approved as a Burger King franchisee. This is the 5th year in the off season. Now I didn't tell anybody, hey everybody, I just got approved as a Burger King franchisee. As soon as this is all over, I can't wait. Mayonnaise, lettuce, tomato, pickle, ketchup, onion. It's the whole thing. I kept in touch with those people year 6, year 7, year 8. And I was all prepared after they let me go. That was still a very, very, it was still a very painful for me. You never want to be let go by somebody. You always think it's going to be a marching band. Doug Plank, he's playing his final game. This is his final year. Da, 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 da. Here he comes down the runway or whatever on top of the field. No, it wasn't like that at all. This was the off season after my 8th year, and the draft, they picked Dave Durson from Notre Dame. Safety. Double D. And he came in, and I got a call on a Friday night from our general manager, Jim Finks, and said, Doug, I need to talk to you. And I said, well, can't wait till next week? He goes, no, we just drafted Dave Durson, and we're going to let you go. Ooh. And we'd like you to come up here and get your belongings at the Hallis Hall up in Lake Forest. And I said, well, I got company here. I said, all due respect, can it be tomorrow? Well, everybody came in at like 7 or 8 o'clock the next day, because after the draft, they always bring in their draft choices and free agents. So it's 6 o'clock in the morning. I went up there with a tote bag and cleaned my locker out at 6 a.m. in the morning. And Jim Finks had a paper, our general manager, for me to sign. And that was a sad, sad day in my life. I just really, I was hoping that it would have ended better than that. But I understand teams, they have a responsibility too, to get the best healthy players, younger, always transitioning. And that was a tough day though. Just realizing, walking up there, walking in that facility, even at that early morning. And it's funny too, because I have a picture of the whole situation as it happened. Me walking in the building and eventually sitting down and getting ready to sign this document like this.
Wow.
My final acknowledgement of being a Chicago Bear. And our general manager is sitting there like right behind me, waiting for me to sign it. I just thought we could have done better than that. And but I still love the Chicago Bears. They gave me an opportunity, a chance, and I got hurt. That was on me. And but every time you go running around in the NFL, hey, there's always a possibility anything could happen. And but to get a chance to meet Walter Payton, oh my God! I mean, that was if I would have only played 1 year, I would have still had that a great memory. That was a great memory.
So, that's the difficult part about it. You even before you got to that point, you set yourself up,
I did.
and a lot of listeners and viewers that are out here that are watching, you got to have if you're doing something right now, you have to always have something that you're working on
Yes.
because you never know what's going to happen. I
Yeah.
experienced that getting out of the military a lot more prematurely than I thought. And the same way you said you described Jim Finks, there was a commander by the name of Commander Fawcett. I'm not going to say his first name, but Commander Fawcett was in the office and he gave me that same, like you say, he give you that paper to sign, like, hey, this is your last day and you're pretty much done.
Yeah.
And it I can't even lie. I don't know how that felt, but I'm sure that pen felt as heavy as 100-pound weight while you were moving it, because that was what it felt like. Because it's a tough thing when you have to give up something that you've been doing for a while. And ironically, I did 8 years in the Coast Guard, just like you played 8 years for the Bears. So, and you have a son that's in the military as well.
Honestly, my son went to Arizona State. He was a great wrestler, and he wasn't big enough to be a football player. But last thing I was he went to school, got a major in construction management, and he wasn't he wasn't big enough to play basketball either. So he did wrestling, and it really just surprised me. Like within 30 days after graduating from Arizona State, he said, "Dad, I decided to join the Army." I went, and my wife and I were just like, we were just so shocked. And he was at Fort Benning and so many places, and and then he went into this EOD, the explosive ordnance.
Explosives on demand, know about him.
And then the next crazy thing happened to me in his life. He met his wife at the EOD school down in Fort Benning, Georgia. I can imagine that conversation about the red wire, the black wire. They're not going to mix them together. I mean, what do you talk about?
How do they say? Don't make. How do they all? Everybody always says, "Don't make your wife mad." Yours knows how to deal with explosives, so you might want to always be on her good side. Always.
You're exactly right. Yeah. So he's been all over the world, and I'm real proud of him. And I just. There's certain things in life that are really worth living, and being proud of your children. I mean, everybody's proud of your children, but to do something for our country, I think you're going above and beyond. You don't know when you might get a call to be put in a dangerous situation. I know for a while there he was possibly going to be going to Afghanistan and some other places, which and he's been over in the far east, and your parents, you just dread something like that happening, and but you know what? That's what they signed up for, and
Yep.
and
I had to tell my mom that because it was I'll just say what I can talk about, because it's things you can't talk about. But
that's right.
I had to tell my mom, and I said, "Listen," I said, "Understand this. This is my job. This is what I have to do."
Yes.
I said, "You're able to walk around in this country. We have things that are wrong here, but I said it's a lot of other things that you don't have to worry about because myself, my military brethren and sisters,
Yep.
we're out here, putting in our time to make sure that you guys are okay. So if anything was to happen to me," and I had to explain it to her, and that was a hard conversation to have with my mom and my dad, and I had to tell them, I said, "You have to realize this is what I chose. And whatever happens," I said, "don't hang your head." I said, if I come home in a box, I said, I want y'all to still smile because I said, I'm going to be smiling because I know I did my job. But
Yeah.
I said, even if I come home whole or messed up, I said, it doesn't matter. I said, you have to understand this is a part of what we do. So I have a lot of respect for you, Mr. Plank, as well as your son, because son's an officer. Congrats to him. I heard you talked about his promotion a little bit. Always happy to hear when people are moving up in the ranks in the military. It's always a big thing because it's really tough and it's really competitive, just like in the NFL.
Oh, yes.
Because you have so many people that are trying to go for that spot. So the competition, it never goes away. It's so different, but it's God. I mean, but the thing is, you can't get cut unless you really do something stupid to get put out. But you don't get cut. Guess what? You have to work for that person that beats you out now. So
That's so true. You know what? What I love about sports and even the military, from what I found out about it now. Um, I'm really glad I was born like in the 50s, and I had, as a young person, had the 60s and 70s, and I don't know. I remember like music and fun and driving cars crazy. I was a crazy man in cars. I wrecked like 3 cars on my dad's, total, rolled them over, and hit telephone poles. You know what? I don't know. Something about hitting things just really excited me. But my
you were
point,
born to hit things.
yeah, I've never experienced a relationship with other men like I have in sports, and my son has in the military. It's like, I don't care where you came from. I don't care what color you are. Hey, listen, I will do anything for you. I will kill myself if I have to. I mean, and like the tears just start rolling down your face. And that's what aggravates me so much about our society right now. Everybody's picking on each other. You know what? Man, we ought to all be rejoicing and happy for each other and protecting each other. And just, I mean, that the best days of my life were spent with other people, in other athletes, in school. It was a relationship. It went beyond family. Not that you don't love your own family, but it's different when you're.
It's different. It's different when you live with those people and you're with them majority of the time.
That's right. I mean,
it's different.
Guys, you're mentioning tonight, Jim Osborne. I'll do anything for that man. Walter Payton, likewise. Those guys will do anything for me. I don't care. I'll take a bullet for them. Because I know that the guys love each other. They love each other, and they'll do anything to help them out. And it's funny when that part of your life it goes, you understand then what a huge vacuum you have. Not that I've been married to my wife for a long time, and she's a wonderful woman and great life and kids. But there was something special about that part of me. I wasn't in the military, but I can't imagine that being much different. And I was just thinking to myself, even when things were happening to me, like in sports, I'm thinking, you know what? I'll do anything for these guys. Maybe not necessarily the coaches, but the players.
The coaches are like we look at coaches and management. We look at coaches and management. You got some good coaches. You got some enlisted, like your chiefs, your E7s, your gunnery sergeants, different things of that sort. We had chiefs because we're similar to the Navy with our ranking system. Those are your coaches. When you look at the warrant officers, those are your general managers. Yeah. Those are the guys. You got some good ones, and then you got some that they're a piece of work, and you just got to say, you know what? I just got to just play it how it goes. The officers, not all officers are bad, because I got some family that's officers that went and enlisted the officer. So they actually took the long route. But then you have some officers that, like you say, some of them never put on a helmet and shoulder pads. And some of those guys, they come from the academy. They come there and they're not humble. And they don't understand what you have to put in when it comes to work. Just like some of the people that, like I look at some of the front offices now today in the NFL. Some of these guys never even played a down of football.
Wow.
A down. And can try to tell you everything else. But it's like, have you ever been hit in your chest where you've been blindside blocked and you can't breathe and you got snot bubbles coming out your nose? Or you know what I mean? Or you have a broken finger, you got to pop back, or just like in the ship, just like on the cutter, the ship, we call it the cutter, but it's a ship. So just like on that, we had officers that had never understood what it was like to drive a ship, never understood what it was like to have to sand and paint when you're back in port to take care of it. And I mean, you're barking out orders, but you've never done this stuff. But you're trying to tell me how to do little things and intricacies. But at the same time, we respect them because, hey, they are put above us for a reason, because they're officers and we have to follow them. And that's just the culture that we have. It's just, just like you say, you're not going to talk back to your boss. because they're paying you, and they can stop paying you if they want to.
Sure could.
So I definitely understand what you mean when you say that. But just to wrap up, I want to talk a little bit about your book. It's on Amazon and Barnes and Nobles and so many other places. Give the fans a little bit of insight on your book, not too much because we want them to buy it and support you.
Sure.
But give them a little insight on the book, and then one more question I want to ask you after this.
You know what? I want you. I think the book is something. I just want to tell people. When someone hears that they've been a movie star or been a politician or been a professional athlete, like every step is like a falling on a pillow, and when nothing could be further from the truth. Every step in life is hard, and you have to make sacrifices, and you have to be around the right people. I can't tell you how many times I made the right decision. Everything that I had success, it was because of somebody else steering me in a direction. Or, for example, when Mike Ditka came in with Chicago Bears, I knew in 5 minutes things were different at the head coaching position job. Not that Buddy Ryan didn't do a job, all this, a great job. And we played San Francisco 49ers one weekend, and some of the more premier players on our defense didn't play very well. And Buddy now was always very rough and tough, like a sergeant would. He was such a sergeant in the Army in the Korean War.
Yep.
He came in that defensive meeting room, and he said, "You know what? I got to tell you, I'm so disappointed. I'm disappointed in myself, and I'm disappointed in the players in this room that just didn't play well. And it wasn't just because of their skill; it was their effort." And he said, "When there's certain guys in here I trust. And when they make a mistake, I can't take it. It's hard for me to digest it." And he's looking out at the room. Tears are rolling down his face. Tears. I'm still getting choked up right now. He just said, he said, "I love every one of you in here. And, it pains me to see a game which we just played, and the effort and execution." And he was crying and walked out the room.
It's okay.
I tell you what, it was so emotional. And Gary told me, this happened later after I had left. This was a Super Bowl evening, and they were getting ready to play the Patriots. And they were watching this film, and that's when Buddy first announced. He goes, "I'm not going to be here next year. I'm going to be the coach of the Philadelphia Eagles." There's total silence in the room, and he said, I want you to know how much you meant to me in my career, and the memories I'll never forget of each and every one of you." And he walked out of there, and Gary just said, kids were crying like little boys, and all of a sudden it got into like a destruction meeting. Chairs were getting thrown, and the camera got thrown into the screen. And I'm just saying, this is such a heavy-minded occupation that I don't suggest everybody go into it, because you got to be ready to go right to the edge, and you really lay everything you've got on the line, your body, your feelings, everything. It's not just tackling and blocking and those sort of things. It's about a life, and that you never forget them. I mean, I still remember that stuff like it was yesterday, and I'm glad I did. I'm glad I did, because I was special in that, I was one of the few people in the world that had a chance to experience it.
You when you said that, and you brought that up, and it just made me appreciate, my coach, one of my coaches that I had some great coaches growing up, but coach I got the closest to was my semi-pro coach, Coach Terry McGriff. I know he's watching right now. I know he's a little upset because I know he's getting ready to get off work in a little bit, and he's like, you waited this long to mention me. But when you speak on that, he was one of the first ones that talked to me when I was going to the military, when I told him I had to give up the game. And
Wow.
and you talk about it, and it was hard. And he's a Navy veteran, he's a Navy vet. And I remember he tapped me on the shoulder. He said, "Son, I need you to understand this. This game doesn't last forever. He said, you got to understand, while you're young, this is when you can do it. When you get to be an old man like me," he said, "you got to understand, you want to be able to walk around later. So it's okay to walk away instead of being carried away. Trust me."
Right.
And and it was at the time I was still trying to digest it, 24 years old, and it was just like, all right, I chose to go to the military because I said, at this point, I don't want to be a statistic. I don't know what I'm gonna do with life. So guess what? I'm gonna give myself an opportunity so I can finish school. I'm gonna let the military pay for it, and then once I'm done with my military career, I'm gonna figure out something else. And honestly, like this right here, whether you know it or not, this is one of the things that, for me, I know my guys, they all love it, the Magnificent Birdcage crew, but for me, it's therapeutic for me to talk to former athletes and understand some of the things you guys are saying when you talk about some of the struggles you guys have had from
Yeah.
walking away to transitioning to life and just having those memories. And you just, now you're putting your energy towards your family, and you understand what's important, and then you realize, like, that game is just a very small part of your life. And then just like the military was a small part of my life, now I got to look ahead to the rest of my life, like you were saying, and let's find opportunities. Let's do different things. So it's a lot of people that's out here, my veterans that are out here, people that aren't even vets, just people that are out here that are transitioning from one occupation to another. Always have something that you're working on, because you never know how long the
Amen.
opportunity you have to do what you're doing. It's not going to last forever. Nothing lasts forever. Eventually, you're going to have to walk away. You're going to have to retire, but you want to set yourself up in a position to do it. And Mr. Plank, your story that you've given us a lot of great memories. You talked about how you set yourself up with Burger King, and then you moved on to coaching, and then not just coaching, motivational speaking, and so many different ventures that you've gotten into. And like you said, building houses, selling insurance.
In real estate, a loan origination, securities. I got a whole wall full of licenses. You know what? They all cost me like $30 a year. I mean, it's not hundreds of thousands of dollars at Ivy League. You know what? And that's why I even tell young people, no, you can become somebody quickly. You don't have to get all in debt and trying to work yourself out of it. And here's my point. Here's my real estate. I've got 6 houses right now and 3 fast foods. I would not have had that if it wasn't for this real estate license, because these real estate license, every time I go buy a house, I get paid. Every time I sell a house, I get paid. Now it's me. I'm the buyer, seller. I'm the agent. It's smart. You can talk to other people that are in real estate. They're more inclined to let you in on great deals, things that they're doing. So you're talking intelligently. So it's not like when your sports career is done, you're just done for life. And no, you never graduate. It's always another challenge out there, another wall to climb. And we're best when we're improving ourselves. We look for. I love getting up in the morning, like at 5 o'clock. I can't wait to do things. Call people. I can wake up at 5 o'clock and call people on the East Coast because it's 8 o'clock there. I can wake them up. And I like about being on the East Coast in Ohio and that. Nobody I could call in California. No, it's 5 o'clock there at 8 o'clock in the morning. Now I can call anybody I want anywhere. If I get up at 5 o'clock, I'm talking.
No wonder you got excited when I gave you the phone call the other day. Well, I definitely appreciate you coming on to the podcast tonight for me. We appreciate you just giving us great stories and insight. You're a great guest. And here's the thing: football season comes around. The Falcons play the Bears this year. Wow. So if you're not busy, if you're not commentating any games on that weekend, we'd love to have you back so we can hear your analysis about the game, because we know that you break it down in a different way. And even if you just want to stop by and just tell some funny stories with us and just hang with us, we definitely would love to have you back, Mr. Plank.
Well, thank you very much. And like I said, every step of the way, whether it was with the Falcons, the Jets, or Ohio State, or it was everything I enjoyed tremendously. The owners of the teams were tremendous in just, spending time talking to me, meeting other coaches, and trying to just help other players. They were going through the same things that we talked about tonight. What motivates you? What keeps you going? If you get married, you got a whole family to take care of, so that's great motivation. And, you start thinking, like you mentioned about, you can't be paralyzed and be it's hard to be, paralyzed parent, for your kids. They want a dad or a mom that's around a lot, that can do things with them and talk and have activities. And so, those were things that I was just thinking of. I didn't want to try to handicap myself too much physically so that I couldn't do things with my kids later on.
Yes, sir. And that's, and just wrapping that up, you always have to remember this. Even though things are bad today, or they might be a little rough, or things might come, just understand it's only for that period of time.
Amen. You're right.
Tough times don't last. Tough people always do. And I'm not speaking physically tough, because if you have ailments or whatnot, you have to have a strong mind to get through your rehab or whatnot. And then you also have to have a strong mind to get through tough situations. Somebody might have cancer. Somebody might have lost a loved one. It's okay to be upset in that moment. And it's okay that you feel that hurt. But understand, when you collect yourself, you cannot stay in that rut. You've got to pick yourself up, and you've got to figure out a way how to keep stepping and keep going. I don't know everybody's religious beliefs. I know I believe in the Lord. That's just myself. He's still working on me, as I tell everybody. But at the same time, always trust and know that no matter how hard it is, you can always find somebody to lean on. You might get a kind word from somebody that might boost you, or you might have someone to give you a kind act. Just know that you're not alone in this world, and there's always good people out here that are going to get you through. So
you have to take that first step. Don't be cautious and afraid of doing that. No, just reach out. Okay, you might be embarrassed one time. Forget it. You'll learn. You'll get better. And I would rather have a group of people around me that are sharing ideas and suggestions, rather than me going out like a lone ranger. Oh, I can do this. Well, I've never done it before. I don't even know how to get started. That's where people come in, and friendships and relationships. And, I just think, sports is a tremendous opportunity to learn that skill early on, to depend on other people to help you get where you want to go.
Yes, sir. Well, thank you for coming on tonight. This is Mr. Doug Plank, one of the hardest hitting safeties that played in the game. We appreciate you coming through the BirdCage on the Perch. I know we were already started before you slid in, because you were getting some things squared away. I understand. I'm definitely gonna be doing some editing tonight. I got my Falcon stuff at the beginning we talked about, but I'm gonna have to chop some of that up so we can have that interview so everybody can enjoy it. You've been a true treasure and a pleasure here for our show tonight. Thank you so much for coming through.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, and I just say tread softly. So there was probably some things that I said tonight that someone wouldn't take very, comfortable. And it's an opportunity that I would never have passed up. And the people that were involved, whether it's the owners, coaches, they made tremendous strides in helping me get where I had to go.
Oh, trust me, Mr. Plank. There's been much worse said after a Falcons loss on this show. So it's nothing that you can say that can make anybody upset. So
you know what it is. I knowing the owner, knowing the coaches, knowing the players, the people that were even players were out there that are in the organization right now. I pull for them. People go, you mean you would pull for that team even over the Chicago Bears? Listen, you're always loyal to a team, but how can you not be loyal to your friends, your associates over the years? Why would you not wish the best for them? Whether they're in a job or a player position, I find myself more being a fan of individuals more so than large groups.
It's just one team. It's just one team that I'll never pull for. I mean, I might have somebody I know that's over there. Good luck to you. But when the New Orleans Saints play the Atlanta Falcons, there will be no love. You understand, because you've been on that sideline, and then you've been a player being in that Bears and Packers rivalry too. So you understand very well how nasty those rivalries are. So thanks again for coming through, Mr. Plank.
Thank you. Thank you.
Have a good one. That was Doug Plank, ladies and gentlemen. We definitely appreciate him coming through. We definitely appreciate you guys coming through. I got a lot of editing to do tonight, so that means this episode is going to be a little bit shorter. But hey, it's all for you. We had to bring it. We got another one coming next week. We got Miss D Todd coming in next week. She was one of the first African-American women. Actually, she was the first African-American woman to be the assistant. She was the assistant to the ACC commissioner in that conference, in the Atlantic Coast Conference or whatnot, for 17 years. And she started the track program for the ladies at Georgia Tech. And she's also a product of the Title IX. You don't know what that is yet? We're going to explain it to you next week. So please join us next week. You either get right or you get left. Much love. Y'all be safe out there. Enjoy your families. We definitely got some things brewing for the season. Y'all stay tuned. Much love. Peace.